Coach, I appreciate you joining me. And one of the guys that I know people here are excited about, and I've talked to other people, is Percy Butler. That's your guy. What can you tell us about what Washington is getting in him?
Well, I mean, first of all, Percy checks all the boxes when it comes to height, length, verified speed. Um, he can play in the post. He can play man to man. He's a really good tackler. And one of the things that scouts really expressed to me is that he is an incredible special teams player, right? So that was phenomenal production on special teams. Really took great pride in that role. But Percy, is a really bright young man. He's from Plaquemine, Louisiana. Was part of the magnet program there, and just really a tough individual, man. He showed numerous times throughout his career his toughness, his competitive spirit. Guy that's going to do things with class. He'll be a great professional for sure.
How did he show that toughness? What ways?
Yeah, I mean, so we found out early in Percy's freshman year that he had a torn labrum, right, at some point there early in training camp, and he had enough stability and strength to continue to play throughout the year. But during that freshman year, I mean, he earned everyone's respect just as a competitor, continued to play. I think we fixed his shoulder after the season was over that year, but overall, I think when you cover kicks, when you're a gunner, when you're a kickoff cover guy, there's a certain level mentality, toughness, effort that comes with that. But I think most importantly here, just his consistency as a person, always embraced the work, was a phenomenal practice player. Um, I think overall his just ability to be a professional, to work through the ups and downs of his career, showed not only physical toughness as a player, but also I think mental toughness from a discipline and consistency standpoint.
When he has that torn labrum or however severe it was, does he say something to you, or do you guys go to him saying, "Hey, is something wrong?" Like, did he even bring it up?
Yeah, it actually happened in the summer, um, and you sometimes you guy gets his shoulder banged up, you uncover some things there. This is a common deal, right? I mean,
Right.
I think there's lots of players that have been through this process in the past, but I think during that season in particular, I just remember specific plays. I mean, there was a play, I think we're playing Troy, and this guy's running down on the kickoff, and we all knew and understood that he was banged up, but he continued to go. So, um, yeah, I mean, just overall here, the character and the makeup of Percy as a person is he affected the entire culture there with his approach.
When with that toughness, because first of all, the funny thing is you don't see many guys who have highlight films of their special teams hits. You don't see that often. He's got highlight films devoted just to that. But where do you think that toughness comes from? Because you clearly know him pretty well, but where does that toughness come from?
Have you been to Plaquemine, Louisiana?
I have, but I know Brian Mitchell very well. And Brian Mitchell's really tough too. So yeah, it must be
Yeah, I
so.
mean,
Yeah,
I think that just um, Percy's a product of a lot of hard work. He's earned that toughness, right? He's developed that toughness. He's got a chip on his shoulder. Was overlooked coming out of high school. Always kind of viewed himself as an underdog to some degree, and he worked that way. So I don't think toughness is something you're just born with. I mean, I think
right.
he was a product of a really good high school program, one that is about the right things. He's from a part of the country where he appreciates any and everything that he has, the opportunity, uh, that he has in front of him. So you're going to get Percy's very best every day. I can't compliment him enough.
From scrimmage as a player, he's got that speed. How do you see him fitting? I know they're going to have their own plan for him. They kind of view him almost possibly in their nickel package as like a bigger safety who can cover up against tight ends. also with the speed to play back. So, what do you see his strengths as a player from scrimmage?
Yeah, I mean, I think Percy's a well-rounded player. I don't necessarily think that he has a weakness. The guy can play in the half. He can play in the post. He's got range. He's got ball skills to make a play on the ball when given an opportunity. I think he's really developed in his man-to-man, his ability to cover the slot. He did that for us quite a bit to the boundary. Um, and I think he's a good tackler, and I think he's got instincts as a blitzer, right? So he played dime for us. He played in the box. He played in the half and the post. He played man-to-man. He's got fantastic special teams tape. So, I mean, there's a reason why he was a fourth-round pick. Uh, I think he brings a lot to the table. And most importantly is his attitude and personality and his consistency as a competitor and as a person.
When a guy hits like that, there's an infectiousness that develops, right? It's an energy that comes with that. What was the impact of some of those hits? Well, even if it's as a gunner or from on defense, what were the impact of those kind of hits?
Yeah, I mean, I think that those are big plays in the game. Certainly, anytime there's a physical play in the game, there's momentum that comes with that. And Percy was an explosive player. Um, I think more importantly to me was Percy's mentality and attitude towards practice. I mean, he was a physical player in practice, uh, phenomenal competitor. Just his approach to practice, his practice habits. He developed, um, while he was at Louisiana. I mean, this was a guy that didn't have Power Five offers. He was a member of our first signing class. We felt very overlooked and underappreciated, and a guy that really bought into the development process. Patrick Toney was his safeties coach all 4 years and did a phenomenal job developing him fundamentally, but also I think Percy's got a really high football IQ,
Right.
and all the things he learned at Louisiana, I think will transition over well to the next level. So you're talking about a guy that has height, length, and speed. He's fundamentally sound. Um, and I think that he really increased his knowledge while he was at Louisiana as a player. And I think, most importantly, he's got character and a very consistent person that you can depend on. He's a foxhole guy, right? He's a guy that um, want on your team and in your locker room.
Well, you brought up Patrick Toney, and I was going to ask you about that because I've seen how he has credited him with helping him develop mentally. How did that come about? Was it extra film study? Was it, what was it? How did Patrick help him? And how did you see Percy grasping that and how quickly?
We have a lot of different ways that we try to improve the football IQ of our team, individual players, position groups, the units. Um, we have a phrase that we use called being a four-dimensional player, right? So not only do you, first dimension would be what what you're supposed to do. Second dimension, what all the players in your position group are supposed to do. Third dimension is all 11 on offense or defense. And then the fourth dimension, which is very rare, is you fully understand your side of the ball, but you also have a great grasp on what the other side of the ball is doing. You can speak a language, you're fluent, you can have an educated conversation and discussion. It helps with in-game adjustments. It helps in a short week, in terms of scouting report and film study. We have a year-round plan to try to improve the players there. Percy was the absolute example and standard in terms of his approach to those things. And Patrick Toney is a phenomenal teacher, extremely intelligent and a phenomenal teacher. So, those guys worked hard together. And I'm confident Percy's well prepared, and certainly Patrick is one of the best in the entire country.
Why? There are a lot of guys who have good speed, who aren't great gunners. And there's more to it than just being able to run down and hit. Why is he such a good gunner?
Well, I think you know, Gunner is obviously speed's an important part of that, but I
Sure.
do think, you got to have a release plan, right? There's got to be some understanding of the concept that's called, the direction of the punt, what's the strategy relative to the field zone, what kind of leverage are you getting from the jammer, um, and then just mastering the craft, right? The basic fundamentals at the line of scrimmage, try to win at the line, and then you got to win post release on the second level. And then just overall good approach, good instincts and angles relative to get the returner on the ground. So, we had a phenomenal punter as well. So,
Yeah.
you pair a good punter with a good gunner, you could cover kicks. And if you want to have a good football team, you got to cover kicks.
He also, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. But he also said that he used to talk to the punter and kind of like maybe game plan just by talking to him and understanding where the ball was going. Is that part of it too?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The other thing, one of the things too, and he's a fourth round pick and he's coming from a smaller school. So you know how this draft process is. They're going to pick at things. You'd see like he had the big hits, but then sometimes there were some missed arm tackles. Was that a fair criticism? Is that something he had to work on, or what do you think?
I don't think there's any players out there that that are perfect. I mean,
Correct.
and I think that this is a developmental game. These are, we all make mistakes, and certainly every football player every week makes mistakes, right? So, like any player, whether they're drafted in the first round or they're a free agent, I mean, you can create a reel of plays where they could improve.
Sure.
But I think that it's about the body of the work, right? And I think that Percy's got a phenomenal body of work, right? I mean, so, Percy will continue to develop. I mean, the guy has a high ceiling relative to his height, length, and speed and overall movement. He's got a great foundation. And I'm confident Percy will play a while. I think he's that kind of person and that type of football player.
Well, like you said, he went from a 2-star recruit to a fourth round draft pick. He's doing something right.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think one thing I would tell you about Percy Butler, he doesn't care what anybody else thinks about him. Okay, I can promise you that, right? The proof's in the pudding, and turn on the tape. Okay, and I think actions speak a lot louder than words, and Percy's actions are pretty impressive.
I think that's that plaque mine background. That's how Brian Mitchell was too. I did want to ask you about, because they also signed an undrafted free agent. I don't know if it's Ferrod or Farid Gardner, whom you also coached in.
Ferrod.
Ferrod. So what are they getting in him?
Yeah, I think Ferrod's a sub backer. Ferrod is he's 6'1.5". He's probably 210 pounds, so a little bit undersized, but has room to grow. Ferrod's a fast player. He's a loose hip player. He can play in space. He's good in coverage. Ferrod's a very intelligent young man, right? I mean, extremely bright. He's a great communicator. And I think Ferrod is a four-core special teams player, right? So I think there's a lot of jobs that he can do on special teams because he can run, he can change direction, and he's a very productive player for us, right? So I think Ferrod's a sleeper, and he grew up a lot as a human being, as a person, and he was voted team captain by his teammates, and a guy that I have the utmost respect for. So, I think Ferrod I'm predicting that Ferrod makes a team. I think, and it's going to come down to his ability to play in pass coverage and be a matchup linebacker, a sub linebacker, and a guy that really has a great toolbox and skill set for special teams.
Did you think he might get drafted?
I thought there was an outside chance. Yeah. I mean, I think that sometimes people could argue that being a free agent is better than getting drafted in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round.
Get to pick your team.
Reality is it doesn't matter where you get drafted or whether you're an undrafted free agent. They're going to pay the guy that can do the job, right? So the true work begins, I think, tomorrow, right? I think those guys
There you go.
report for
They're out
rookie
there.
mini camp tomorrow, and may the best man win, right? And I'll tell you one thing, these two guys, wouldn't bet against them.
There you go. Coach, I appreciate your time. And I always like the nickname Raging Cajun. So you get guys who have played for a Raging Cajun, you probably got something there that will be fun. So I appreciate your time and good luck this season down in Florida.
Okay, John. Thank you, man. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Florida coach Billy Napier for joining me. And thank you, as always, for listening. Like I always say, you have a choice, and I appreciate you choosing me. I'll be back with another episode on Friday, talking to Alabama beat reporter Mike Rodak about two of the Crimson Tide players Washington drafted this year, defensive tackle Fedarian Mathis and running back Brian Robinson. Rodak covered them, knows them well, good insight. Talk to you next time.